Hi, I'm Manny.
And I'm Cheryl, and welcome to my sewing room. I'm going to demonstrate how to make this really easy to make denim strip rag quilt.
Oh, wait a minute. Did you use my jeans for this?
No, I didn't use your jeans, but you can use old denim jeans and cut them up and put them in this quilt. But I used just one long piece of denim fabric and two other cotton fabrics to make this. But before I get started on demonstrating, I want you to know that at the end of the video is a link so you can learn how to make this really cute little baby rag quilt. So let's get started. For this lap quilt, I'm using 3 different 100% cotton fabrics. I'm using 1.5 yards of each. This will make enough for a small lap quilt. You want to layer your fabrics, leave them folded, and line up the folded edge up here all the way across. Then you're going to cut all 3 layers the same size all at the same time. So line it up, and you want to get that edge straight. After cutting this edge straight, then you want to go to the opposite end and cut that edge straight also. After cutting both ends straight, now you want to cut this other side where your selvages are. Now my denim is a lot wider than my other cotton fabrics, so I'm just going to save this strip for a future project. So line up your ruler straight on this edge here, and then go ahead and trim this edge off straight. After you have finished cutting everything, then unfold each piece, and now you're going to layer it. So I'm using my denim on the top. So I'm going to put the front side down of the denim down first. Then I'm going to take my second layer of cotton. I'm using this yellow. I'm going to put the front side down on top of that. Your last layer, which it will show on the back, you want to have the back side against that last layer you just put down. So on the very back of your quilt, you're going to see the front side of your fabric. Now I've turned my quilt around so it's a little easier for me to do the next step. So this direction here of mine is about my 44 inch width right in here. And then this direction is my 54 inch width. So you want to take one end going in this direction, the longest sides, and place a ruler somewhere in the middle, your long ruler, and you're going to bring this set of raw edges here down to the other end, and let me pull this, and you're going to bring those edges as close together as possible. Now at this one end here, I'm going to move this, is my ruler. And I'm using this to make sure that the fabric hasn't crunched up in here, that it's all folded evenly. So you want to check each side, go to the other side over here, and do the same thing. After folding your fabric in half, then on the folded edge, which mine is right here, go ahead and place straight pins all across the edge up here. Then take the raw edges down here and bring them towards that folded edge, but don't bring it on top of the folded edge. And then fold it one more time. And then it'll be easier to insert this into your sewing machine and you don't have your fabric pulling all over. In order to stitch that seam up there near that folded edge, I highly recommend you use a walking foot. You can purchase these on the internet. They probably range from $20 up to over $100, depending on what kind of sewing machine you have. What this does is it evenly distributes all the layers of your fabric so that it does not shift. Because this is so thick, this is going to be very useful to you. Otherwise, your fabric is probably going to shift. You're going to do a 5/8 of an inch stitch seam. On your throat plate, you'll see these lines here, 10 through 40. The line between the 10 and the 20 is the 5/8 of an inch line. That's where you want to keep the folded edge of your fabric. There's also one over here. So keep it aligned with that and do that 5/8 of an inch seam. After you've finished stitching this center fold, now you want to measure from the stitch line, not the folded edge, but the stitch line, all the way down to the raw edges down here. Now mine was 26 3/4. And the reason why I'm asking you to measure is in case you didn't cut yours exactly as I did, your measurements might come out a little differently, especially if you decided you wanted to make it longer. So this is how you would calculate where your next fold lines are. So again, mine measured 26 3/4. I'm going to take away 2 inches because that's going to be used up in the seams on the next 2 folds. So now I have 24 3/4. Divide that by 3 and it comes out to 8 1/4. So 8 excuse me, 8 1/4 inches from this stitch line out, you're going to place another row of pins. So I've just pushed my ruler up against the stitch line here, went out to 8 1/4 and place a pin. Go all the way across. Make sure you go through all of the layers. Then you're going to turn it over. After turning it over, I now have my very back of the rag quilt is now facing up. So take the raw edge and pull it back to where you get to that pin line. And that's going to be your new folded edge. So you're going to line it all up on that pin line. Once you have it all lined up, then place pins across here and then do another 5/8 of an inch seam. After you finish stitching your second folded edge, which mine is right here, now you're going to measure out again 8 1/4 inches. So place your ruler right up against that stitch line, not the folded edge, but the stitch line, and go out 8 1/4 inches and place pins all the way across. Then of course you would turn it over, pull that raw edge towards you so that you can pin and fold your last folded edge on this side. Once you've done that, then stitch 5/8 of an inch seam. Now I've just finished stitching my last fold line. Now this is what the back looks like. You're just going to see these little ditches here. That's the way it's supposed to look. So now, after you've done that side, you're going to do the same thing on this side. You're going to put fold lines 8 1/4 inches between to the next one. So you'll have 2 more you'll do on this side. Here is my last folded edge. Now I've already trimmed some of this off. So when you get ready to start trimming, you want to make sure that the other side of that fold is tucked under neatly away, because we're now going to trim this edge up. I'm going to pull it towards me a little bit. So now just take a ruler and put the 1/2 inch line on your stitch line. And you're just going to trim just a teeny tiny amount off and just go continually on down this entire row. And you're going to do that to all 5 of your fold lines. Make sure you have a nice and sharp rotary cutter. One more thing I forgot to mention as you're trimming. make sure that you're going through all of the folded edges through all 3 fabrics, because as you're doing this, you might not get all of those areas. So you could just go back and trim just a little of it off and just continue going on down, trimming your edges. After you have done the last step, go and look at your outer edges. Now, while you have been doing all of this stitching, your edges are probably going to be a little uneven. If they're just slightly uneven, I wouldn't worry about it. But if there's a considerable difference, I would trim some of that off. One of the things you might notice when you are completely done with this rag quilt is that the outer edges all the way around will not be as fluffy as those seams you did through the middle. That's because the seams going through the center of the rag quilt have 6 layers of fabric, but the outer edge only has 3. So this is a suggestion, if that's an issue with you, if you do not like that, is to cut little 1-inch strips, you know, of a, like for instance, I did a pink and a yellow. They're just 1-inch strips. And what I've done is, here's my denim. So I placed a yellow down along the edge, then a pink, and then of course laid down my last 2 layers. Go ahead and pin, place a few pins there to hold it. So you can place that all the way around. And when you're going to put them in here, if they don't fit exactly, don't worry about it. Just cut them to where it's easy for you to slip it in underneath the layers here. And then of course pin it down. After you've done that, if you choose to do that, your next step would be to do a 1/2-inch seam around the entire outer edge of this rag quilt. I also suggest you use a color of thread that you can see clearly, because when we do the last step, which is the clipping, you want to be able to see that thread because you don't want to clip through it. And the thread won't be seen when you're completely done because the fluff around the edges and the seams will be so big, it's going to cover it up. When you are doing your 1/2-inch seam around all 4 sides, make sure you open these seams here up and stitch across over them like that. The next step on the rag quilt is to do the clips all the way around on all of the seam areas. You're going to do little slits, and I'll demonstrate that in just a moment. But I want to show you what I recommend you use, because regular scissors, you're going to wear them out very, very fast on this next step. So these are special scissors that are used for rag quilting, and they are called Fiskars 8.5-inch Soft Touch Spring Action Rag Quilter Snip. They're very, very sharp. It says razor edge. So please be careful you don't put these in the hand of small children because it could cut their fingers off. They're that sharp. So they have a little lock on it, so when you're not using it, make sure you put the lock on. One more thing I want to mention about these quilting snips or rag quilting snips is they're very expensive. Now you can get them on Amazon relatively cheaper than most other places, but if you want to go to JOANN's, make sure you take one of their 50% off coupons with you so you can get it half off. Now you're going to start the little snips or clipping, and you're going to be careful you don't clip through this stitch line here. And you're going to do small little snips, and I do them about 1/4 of an inch apart. Now they don't have to be super exact and even, but you're going to go all along there. When I get to the corners, I just kind of do something like this. I don't do anything super fancy. Now you're going to do it all the way around the outer edge. And then your seams here, you are also going to do, whoops, let me pull it this way. And I recommend that you just go along this way on one side of the seam, because it's hard to go through all of those layers because your hands are going to get real tired. And then go back and start clipping along this way. Now after you're done clipping, and this is one of those things where you want to put on a good movie, make a cup of coffee or cup of tea, whatever it is you like to drink, sit there, clip this, and watch a movie, because it's a long process, but it's really, really easy to do. Also, you could do it as a group effort. I have 2 of these because my husband and I sometimes do it together. So there you go. Now when you get done with all of that clipping, you're going to put this in the washing machine, and then you're going to put it in the dryer. And about every 15-20 minutes when it's in the dryer, open it up and clean out the lint trap, because it's going to get full really, really fast. And when you are done, it should look like this. Now, I've only washed it one time, and look how fluffy those seams and edges are. Now, every time you wash it, it'll get fluffier and fluffier. This is a great project for beginners. I call it that little weekend quilt. In fact, you can even do it in a day. So give it a try. Well, I hope I've inspired you to make this denim rag quilt. If you like this video, click on that thumbs up button. Also, click on share to share this video with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click on that red button down there in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. I'm Cheryl, and this is Manny. So glad you came to my sewing room. See you next time, and happy sewing!